Narrative voice is an important part of analysing Mrs. Dalloway and Wuthering Heights. Though they both employ multiple narrative voices, they explore these in different ways. In Wuthering Heights, frame narrative is used, meaning that Lockwood is the main narrator and his narrative frames Nellie's. This can be seen as a woman's voice only being heard through a man, as they are so powerless and unheard within the society. Lockwood uses Nellie for an entertaining story, and although most of the novel is heard from her perspective, we shouldn't forget that it is through Lockwood's journal entries that we hear her. Mrs. Dalloway, however, makes use of free indirect discourse, where we see the story as if we are within the characters' heads. This allows us to see the views and opinions of the characters of each other and of themselves. The narrative flits from person to person as we see London from the perspective of multiple people. This allows us to see the story from a wider, clearer point of view and how different characters are connected and react to different events. Mrs. Dalloway has more secondary characters through the busy London streets, whereas Wuthering Heights has mainly protagonists. Wuthering Heights also follows a family across multiple generations, whilst Mrs. Dalloway follows two people, Septimus and Clarissa. This allows us to see the two parallels between them, where they both represent two types of mental illness, depression and hysteria. The narrative in Wuthering Heights still enables us to see different perspectives, though the use of palimpsest gives us an insight into the late Catherine's mind. Palimpsest is the use of narrative on top of another narrative. It is used when Catherine writes her diary on the Bible, showing her rebellion against the religious values that she has been taught to follow. It gives us an insight into her character and forebodes how she will ultimately love the demonic Heathcliff. The reliability of a narrative is also important, as Lockwood is represented as very biased and clueless about life in the moors. He represents the London public, and this suggests that the moors themselves are otherworldly. Although Nellie can be seen as more reliable, Lockwood's interludes remind us that she is being listened to by a narrator with little credibility. Mrs. Dalloway seems more reliable, as the alternative narrative and perspective allows us to see a wider picture. The narrators would be biased through their own opinions, but the use of multiple perspectives allows us to make judgment about what is the most feasible, realistic story. It should also be noted that the focus of the male narrators in both texts is often on that of a woman. Peter Walsh is obsessed with women and only really thinks about either Clarissa or Daisy. Lockwood relies heavily on Nellie's storytelling for entertainment. This suggests the power of women over men and adds a feminist aspect to both texts. The narrative is used to portray characters and how they react to each other. Both novels use different narrators to suit the path of the story and reveal what is necessary at specific points of the text.